We are getting into the Matt Crocker press conference. Matt was just announced as the sporting director after a 3-month search after Ernie Stewart had stepped down from the role to take on a similar role with PSV Eindhoven in the Eredivisie in Holland. And Matt Crocker comes over, 48-year-old from Wales, from his role at Southampton, where he has been kind of overseeing a lot of things, both on the men's and women's side. And he came from the English FA prior to that, where he was overseeing all the youth stuff there and working with Gareth Southgate and how they could build kind of an identity for England after a few wayward international tournaments. He was also at Southampton prior to that as an academy director from 2006 to 2013. So I really like his CV, his resume in the youth space, Heath Pearce. And so I went back and looked at some of the youth teams that had success for England. So the U17s did very, very well. They won the U17 World Cup for England under his time in charge, the English FA. Those teams had Phil Foden, Jadon Sancho, Emile Smith-Rowe, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Conor Gallagher, Mark Gahey. So that's the U17 team. The U19 team that won the Euros had Aaron Ramsdale, Mason Mount, Reece James were kind of like the big names that stood out there. So he's had some players that have gone on to have some pretty tremendous success, both the club level and internationally. But I hope that can translate to us. But I think that type of role from a youth perspective takes time. Now, Heath, I'm going to keep going here because during this press conference, he had made mention that he was one of those kids or younger people that came over to the States during the summer to run soccer camps. And these are the types of people at times that I make fun of because it feels like we are so thirsty over here to get accepted by people that have a British accent that even if they have no background, they come over for the summer and they're coaching our kids, but they don't really actually know. They just have the accent. So everybody's like, oh, well, they grew up in England, so they clearly know the game, And so I think it's funny that he actually did that, and now he's the sporting director for our both our men's and women's programs. But obviously, he's got a pretty decorated CV.
Yeah, it is. It is. I do think we're nearly. I mean, I don't think we're nearly past it because if you go into any of these youth clubs, you're like, oh yeah, there they are, British accents, telling you to get the ball on the pitch and play.
Get stuck in.
But yeah, I think there's still a lot. I mean, obviously there was the whole GPS had that whole scandal around visas when they were expanding their empire around the US of like these visa fraud, basically being able to bring all these coaches over because it is like when it comes down to youth sports, it's a selling point, right? If I give you $10,000 a year, what do I get? Okay, I get this coach that has these badges. I get 2 trainings a week. I get a skills session. I get to do this gym thing. I get these free plays on the weekends. And then, and then I get these tournaments. And then you're talking to the other club who's telling you, something similar, but different. And so it is part of the marketing pitch and play or employ that you're going after these coaches. I also think that we need more educated coaches in the US, right? I think the accessibility to that is still, the barrier to entry is high. And I think the accessibility is still really difficult. There's obviously a lot of grassroots licensing available with US Soccer now online to be able to learn just simple basics to get you off the ground. But I culturally, I think we need to continue to develop that. And that might be the biggest jump that we need in order to win a World Cup someday, right? Is the coaching. Like, are we getting enough quality coaching at a young enough level that are doing it for the right reasons, that aren't doing it so that Jimmy can live vicariously through all of us, to win another championship with his JV team and screaming at everybody and telling them
listen,
they're not going to make it? Or are we nurturing and no.
We didn't win. Dude, listen, have I gotten into this? Because it's still like, okay, so we played 32 halves, okay, of soccer through our 16 league games. We lost 4 of those halves. We lost 4 out of 32 halves, and we got 4th. That just speaks to the quality of this particular JV. Anyway, I agree with you. I think that the coaching does suffer. I know that there's some clubs around the country that have multiple age groups or multiple teams in a certain age group. And I think that it's a shame that our B teams, or if a C team exists, there's no coach that has any type of ambition, that has any quality, that's going to ever accept a C team position, right? But we could argue, and this kind of trickles down to having our best coaches coach our youngest players. There's no glory in that, right? That is just pure love for the game and trying to help these kids get better. And I think at some point, even if you have the best intentions, you might start there, but you're going to want to prove yourself at the highest level you can go. And I think that also is unfortunate. And I wish that we would reward some of our best young coaches with our best coaches that coach the youngest players with probably better money, right? But there's still no guarantee that's going to turn into anything. But I think if you and I were at a club and we could hand off a U10 player that we had coached for a year to the next level, the U12 coach would be so thankful for all the hard work that we did to really kind of just get the basics hammered, and they understood how to play and had ideas when they were on the ball and made good soccer decisions. But we could go on and on about this. And so I think this is a nice segue to what Matt Crocker says about hiring a coach. And so he has said that right now he's not focused on any individuals. And this is his quote right here. It's about thinking about the behaviors that we need, the style of play that we want to promote going forward, the type of leader that we want to bring in. And then obviously that legacy piece that we want to instill and have the opportunity to grow in 2026. He went on to say, it would be unprofessional of me right now to talk about individual names. Greg has done a fantastic job, and I intend to follow up with a number of candidates, both internally within the organization and externally, to begin to understand more and to assess my learning. I'll be doing that as quickly as I possibly can. But throughout this, he was very steadfast in, we're trying to create an identity that we can build off of in 2022 to be even more, for opponents to be more fearful of us moving forward. And I get that in theory, right? But that's a hard thing to implement in a lot of different ways. I just don't think it's not going to be 1 or 2 years. That feels like a much bigger overarching theme for his role, which is his job in particular, right? The general manager that they hire, the coach that he hires, they're going to be in the weeds executing on his vision. So I think this hire obviously is going to be very important. Like you said in our last podcast, Heath, you're going to be very curious and you're going to withhold judgment on this hire until you can kind of see the actions and decisions he's making as a leader himself.
Yeah. And again, what I like about this is that this is a guy who has a vast experiences, right? And he's not coming in going, I'm assuming in the interview process, he's probably had to share some thoughts and ideas of okay, walk us through the next steps of where we're at now, right? And he can come in and be like, this is how we do it, and this is the next thing. But I like his approach to saying, I've got a plan, but I've still got to assess to be able to implement the right plan or the correct plan. And I just like that, again, that perspective of saying, I'm going to do it as fast as I can, but I'm not coming in here with the blueprint to say, this is how we're going to fix it. And he's saying, I need to build the team to be able to do this right. But this is a process, a linear process that we've got to get through. And I just like that mentality to say, look, I need to understand this better, as opposed to being like, oh, I know, I came from this. Of course I know football. How different could it be? Of course I know how to build a staff and whatever. How difficult can it be? I think he's coming in with a different approach, which I really like for now. Having said that, if he doesn't do something soon, we're going to stand outside of the offices, Jimmy.
Well, apparently though, that would be great. That's a good visual for us, and great for social media, Heath. Me and
we're going to send the guy with the sign. We have him stand outside for a week.
Yeah, we don't say anything. We just have this sign that's going to speak for us. Apparently, he's not going to take the full-time job, or he's not going to be in the full-time position as sporting director till August 1st. Though Southampton apparently has given him permission to help the coaching search now. Mm-hmm. And I wonder the list of candidates. I felt like this was pretty quiet, the hiring process with regard to getting Matt Crocker in particular. And I wonder how public this pursuit of certain candidates is going to be.